In this short presentation, I'd like to focus on pricing your work, some simple guidelines for how to effectively charge for your services. So I really love this quote by a guy named Jonathan Swift, who says, "A wise man should have money in his head, but not in his heart," meaning we're not necessarily doing this job only for the money. We do it because we love it, but we do need to be smart about the ways in which we're compensated for the work that we do. We all have to make a living, of course. One of the first and most obvious principles is that those who don't talk about money often don't make it, which is another way of saying have money conversations early in the process with your clients or studios. If you're doing this work in a professional context, you need to be paid for your time and talent. Don't be afraid to set clear boundaries with clients about payment. Now, motion design and doing motion design work is not a commodity, it's a commission, which is another way of saying all projects are not created equal. You can't provide a budget proposal until you know exactly what is being asked of you. Every project is going to be different. So the way that we can navigate this is to use common pricing factors to set fair prices and protect yourself. And this is really going to be the big idea of this presentation, is focusing on pricing factors. Because what you're doing is a commission, you need to understand the parameters of that commission to be able to appropriately set a price. Some common and obvious pricing factors are length. This is one of the most basic metrics to determine cost. If something is 10 minutes long, it's going to require a heck of a lot more work than something that's 30 seconds long. So you need to know the desired length of the piece. Level of complexity can be another factor. Learn as much as you can about the visual concepts and level of detail. The best way to gauge desired complexity from a client is to use references to dig for this information. Do they want something largely vector art and simple, or do they want something that involves photorealistic 3D rendering? Those are going to require different levels of work and investment. A really important factor can also be the role of characters. Very often, clients will come to you with an idea of an animated character. Now, designing characters and animating them is incredibly time-consuming, and to be done well really requires a specialist, being a character designer or character animator. So if characters are going to be present in your piece, if it's anything more than just a simple character standing on screen, you may need to make room in the budget for an extra designer or character animator. Another factor is simply your role in the production. Are you a freelancer who's being asked to produce everything? Or are you just playing one role in the production? For freelancers, a lot of times you have to wear the hat of producer, designer, animator, sound designer, audio mixer, editor, script writer. Multiple responsibilities eat up time, and you need to make sure that you're being paid for all of your efforts. So figure out up front what your role in the production is going to be. Another important factor is turnaround time. If you're going to be pulling all-nighters to hit a quick deadline, try to pay yourself accordingly. Some other pricing factors to consider would be the client. Is this client a Fortune 500 or Fortune 50 company, meaning one of the most well-resourced companies in the world? Or are they a small startup? Now, the reason we want to know this information is not about price gouging, just getting as much as you can, but the fact is that larger companies have more levels of approval, which is going to take more of your time. They can also be harder to collaborate with, as the levels of bureaucracy can cloud the process. It is more difficult to work with large companies. Some smaller firms can be very free to produce content quickly, which is why often working with startups can mean a slightly smaller price tag. Another important factor is usage rights. How many people will view the work? What medium will be used to display it, web, broadcast, or internal? Again, this is not about price gouging, but you need to be paid for the value that you are creating. The more people who are going to consume your work, the more value was created for the client. So it might be a different price on something that 50 people see at an internal meeting versus 40 million on broadcast television. Another important factor to learn about upfront is your display rights, meaning can I use this in my portfolio after the project has gone live? Now, the reason we want to know this is having work in your portfolio adds value to your future prospects. It can help you get that next job. If they want you to keep it a secret, then additional compensation, if only slight, might be in order. Meaning if it's a project that you can't show and it doesn't help you get the next job, then maybe you need to make a little bit more money on that project. Another big and somewhat cloudy X factor is your skill level and the overall demand for your services. If people are beating down your door, then you can be really firm in pricing or even go up in price. But if you're hearing crickets and you're not getting a lot of inquiries, then maybe it's time to negotiate and take whatever work you can get. If you're in one of the early phases of your career and you're just looking to improve your portfolio, then the most important thing is to do a lot of work. Doing simple projects at lower price points can be a great way to build trust with clients and can also lead to larger opportunities. So assessing your own skill level, where you're at in your career, and as well as the demand for your services, can drive where you're going to land on price. Now, let's talk a little bit about client inquiries. Very often, inquiries are going to come in vague. It's important not to provide pricing information too early. You need to fully understand the scope of the work before you can respond with a budget proposal. So let's look at a short example. So the client might email you and say, "Hello, I'm looking to have a video created for my website. I like your work and wanted to see if you were available. I'd also like a quote on how much you charge for a video. Thanks, client." So when this comes in, we almost have no real information that's helping us determine a price at this point. The last thing we want to do is simply throw out a number. That's the last thing we want to do. Rather, we should try to respond with something like, "Hello, thanks so much for reaching out about your project. I appreciate your kind words about my work. I am currently available and would love to learn more about what you are looking to accomplish with this video. I'd love to set up a call or Skype and hear more." So if you are available and interested, you simply need to move the conversation forward and start looking for those pricing factors. Now, motion designers typically charge in two distinct ways: hourly rates and project rates. Hourly rates are typically more for if a studio or agency is looking to contract you. It's likely they're going to want you to work for a day rate or hourly rate, and that can vary pretty widely based on your experience level. So average hourly rates can be anywhere from $25 to $110 and potentially even higher for more specialized jobs. An average day rate can fall anywhere between $200 and $900 a day. Again, it's simply based on your experience level. Now, project rates are useful if you are working directly with the client and have multiple production responsibilities. In this instance, a project rate may be more appropriate. And of course, determining that project fee is going to be dependent on all those pricing factors that we just discussed. Now, dependent on all those pricing factors, the length, the complexity, the turnaround time, a project rate could be anywhere from $500 for something very small and simple that's going to take you a day, all the way to $50,000, something that's going to take you months, and you might have to assemble a team of people to help you, and of course even higher depending on the complexity of a project. Now, just a little excerpt from me personally, Michael Jones. When I first started out, to be fully honest, I was doing 30 to 60 second animations for about $350. It was the only work I could get at the time. But over the course of a couple of years, winning over clients one at a time, working really hard, I was producing 30 to 60 second animations for around $12,000 to $15,000. It rose slowly as demand for my services increased. So I tell you that just to give you an indication that when I was starting out, there was almost no project that I wouldn't accept. I was doing any project that I could get for any fee that the client could afford, simply to build my portfolio, to build my network of contacts, build my referral base, and just try to increase my prices slowly over time. So a couple of key points to review. Every project is going to have a long list of variables that will determine price. Use these simple pricing factors to come up with thoughtful budgets that compensate you appropriately and serves the client's goals. Now, upon that initial correspondence with the client, make it abundantly clear that you can only provide an accurate cost estimates once you have all the project details. No matter how much a client pushes you, do not just throw out an arbitrary number without understanding first what the project really is. And ultimately, deciding your price points is about supply and demand. If you're in demand, you can charge higher prices. If you're not, it may be best to start taking lower paying jobs, to build those client relationships as well as your portfolio. So just a quick review of the factors we discussed: length, level of complexity, the role of characters, your role in the production, turnaround time, who the client is, usage rights for the media, your personal display rights, and your skill level and industry demand. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching.